All right, folks, we are combining the Monday recap and the Tuesday look ahead into one program here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I am Dan Besbris, and you can find me over on social at Dan Besbris. And with a lot to cover, I don't want to spend too much time here at the outset screwing around, but you guys know I got to tell you a couple things. First, hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe however you're taking in the content. 5-star reviews go a really, really long way on Apple and Spotify. And of course, this show is brought to you by our friends at Bet Online. Basketball fans, it's that time of the year again. The NBA's back. From opening tip-off to buzzer beaters, Bet Online has you covered with the best odds, biggest promotions, and live in-game betting on all your favorite teams. This season, every game matters. Bet Online has every stat, matchup breakdown, and live odds to bet on during the games. And it's not just the NBA. Bet Online has odds on everything from football to the World Series. Dodgers up 3-0, baby. NHL, political props. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering, Bet Online. The game starts here. Yesterday, we had 11 games to cover, so I don't want to take much time without that going down. There they are up on the screen for you YouTube folk. And I don't know, we got a massive number of new things as much as we got confirmation on existing things. But let's sort of weave our way through. What I'm also going to try to do, to the best of my ability, this is, land of Dan without producer, is if we get to a player that I really want to highlight, I'm either going to find a way to highlight their name on your screen, or maybe I can quickly pull up the Yahoo player page. But it's going to be a little clunky because I don't want to interrupt my train of thought too much, or the whole thing comes crashing down. In any event, Indiana losers at Orlando. Tyrese Halliburton, signs of life. He's even come out and said, look, I've airballed the most shots of anybody in the NBA so far. He's not himself yet, but he did have 10 assists, 19, 9, and 10 with 4 threes and a steal, is definitely trending in the right direction. Can you still buy low on Halliburton? Probably, if only because those first few games were so truly horrible. Now, he's ranked 117 right now, while shooting 34% from the field, 63% at the free throw line, and averaging only 5 assists a ball game. So I think there's still a little window there, but maybe not as quite as much as the previous one. Nothing else really to go into on the Indiana side. I mean, this is a team that you know what you're getting basically out of everybody, and there are and have been no surprises so far. Franz Wagner left early in this game for Orlando. He's dealing with a flu-like symptoms or whatever you want to call it there. So Anthony Black picked up some bonus run, as did Gary Harris. Black's looked pretty good so far this year, but I don't really trust him to keep up enough fantasy stats all season long. That, I think, is where we probably have to, draw the line a little bit. But keep an eye on Black. He's not an ad. Keep an eye on him. Wendell Carter Jr. is also kind of a watch list guy. In my opinion, I think about Wendell as more of a head-to-head stream for rebounds. Because, he's not going to block shots. He doesn't get many defensive stats of any kind. He'll score a little bit, but not much. So, rebound stream for the most part. It's Franz, it's Jalen Suggs, who's now had 2 excellent games in a row after kind of a slow start to the year, and he's number 24, by the way, in 9-cat to this point. And then his teammate, Paolo, who dropped 50. It's quite a ball game. He's averaging 28.5 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists so far. But he's doing it on a Giannis-level free throw number. So it's a give and take there. And this is what we talked about with Paolo. Now, the nice thing so far with Banchero, and I don't want to buzzkill a 50 burger because this is a massive, massive line. But the buzzkill is that right now, he's sort of tanking your free throw percent. As good as he was in so many things yesterday, 50 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, that doesn't win you the week in those categories. But shooting an extraordinarily high volume, 63.5% at the free throw line, that does lose you a category. There is no one in the NBA that is even close to as large of a positive in free throw shooting as Banchero has been a negative to this point. Your closest are Dame, I think, has been the most positive. And then who's number 2? Is Trae Young number 2? And you basically need both of those guys. just to get back to around league average in that category. So my take on this is very simple. I don't want this to sound like a Paolo bashing hour. My take on this is, if you're punting free throws, great. You don't have anything to worry about. If you're not, you know what to do. I also don't think the turnovers are going to stay at 1.8. I don't think the points are going to stay near 30. I don't think the field goal percent is going to stay at 49. But the question, of course, is how much do you think those things slip? Because the free throw, I mean, maybe that gets better also. It might not all be a bad thing, but it is, in my opinion, a sell high. So I know it feels sort of like a doubling down kind of thing, but like, you got to know what you're working with. And immediately I forgot to put the players' faces up on the screen. So apologies to those that are watching, because I should have very much put Paolo's name and I didn't. So that was the Paolo Banchero segment. But at least I highlighted the name for you on the screen, right? That's something. Let's do it that way. So at least I don't lose my train of thought. Detroit lost again. They're losing a lot of competitive basketball games this year, but it's not enough. They got to find a way to win them. Let's talk Jaden Ivey and Tobias Harris. Ivey had 18 points in this one. 5 threes, 4 boards, 2 steals, but with him, it's the same kind of thing. Is the field goal percent, the free throw percent, the turnovers, are those actually going to be enough? And so far, the answer is kinda. 21 points, 5 boards, 3.5 assists, a steal, and 2 3-pointers is outstanding. That's a great collection of numbers, but he's been a pretty good-sized negative in both percentages, and the turnovers have not been as bad so far. Having trouble getting the voice to wake up so far this morning. We'll get there. It's coming around. I don't think those percentages magically fix themselves with Ivey. He's obviously much better in head-to-head than he is in roto, because those will pile up over the course of the year. And if you're punting either of them, then he becomes an easy yes. Meanwhile, Tobias Harris is a nice little buy low. He's not shooting the ball well, but the rebounds are picking up, which is nice. 1 steal, 1 block. Presumably there will be some threes that eventually come in, but he's shooting terribly so far. And I don't know what it would take to get him. Maybe we'll do a buy low show on what it would take to get Tobias Harris. But I would think about trying to do it, because odds are he's going to be better than he's been so far. Miami. Jaime Jaquez Jr. stole the power forward job from Nikola Jovic last night, which basically is telling us neither one of those guys is a safe play. Butler, Adebayo, Rozier, Hero. That's it. The Wizards beat the Hawks. Nice little win for Washington in a close ball game. Kyle Kuzma left late with a sore groin. He had a big game prior to that. Although it's the same damn thing. All these guys I'm talking about so far are these points league type of players. Kuzma 25, 11, and 7 with 5 threes, but 0 steals, 0 blocks, 8 out of 20 shooting from the field, 4 of 6 at the free throw line, and 5 turnovers. That's a train wreck of a 5-pack of categories right there. Yeah. I mean, you know what to do. If you've listened to me for a while, you know I'm not a big Kyle Kuzma 9-cat guy. So after a good ball game, see what you can do with him. I am more intrigued by, well, first of all, Jordan Poole is a first rounder to this point. So I need you guys to keep 2 thoughts in your head for a moment. Can you do that with me? I know it's a lot at times, and people are going to yell at me when I try to do this kind of thing. Jordan Poole is averaging 22 points, 5 assists, 5 3-pointers, and 3 steals on 51% from the field, and he's made all 6 of his free throws so far. Look, he's a very good foul shooter, so 100% is going to come down to 90-something, but that's not the one we're worried about. Field goal at 52 has no chance of lasting. 3 steals a game has no chance of lasting. 5 3-balls a game has no chance of lasting. This is a guy who profiles, and we liked him a lot. Here's the hold 2 thoughts in our heads part. Jordan Poole was on all of my sleepers and breakouts boards. You can go back to the preseason shows and watch them. The receipts are there. However, when you take him at 70-something or 80-something, the thought was, this is the year he goes top 40, where everybody wanted him to be last season. And that was more of an 8-cat prediction than 9-cat anyway. So right now, he's a first rounder. If you can get anyone who profiles as a long-term top 40, you do it. You just lock it in. It's basically a way of just saying, value, I got you now. So I like Jordan Poole a lot to this point, but he ain't going to be this good for long. Corey Kispert got hot. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Bilal Coulibaly, 17 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, a 3-ball. He looks great so far this year. Absolutely terrific. And he's getting more aggressive. And I know right now he's ranked outside the top 100, mostly because of the 2.7 turnovers. It's an artificially depressed number because his percentages have been good and counting stuff has been pretty solid. And in 8-cat, it's a strange thing. He's inside the top 100. When everybody settles and numbers settle and Bilal's steals stay at 1 and he gets a block or whatever it is that you need, he's profiling as an inside the top 100 guy. And long-term, if someone averages 16 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, a steal, and almost 2 3-pointers on good percentages, that's top 80 or better. It's a little like Austin Reaves last year, honestly. So I like Bilal a lot. I also am kind of in on Alex Sarr right now, who during the preseason, I think I was like, oh, he's like my second favorite rookie, but I think there's going to be a big learning curve. And the learning curve is there because dude is shooting in the 20s in percentages. But he's also showing an ability to rebound and block shots and get steals that I didn't know we were going to get right off the bat. Or as my kid says right these days, off the rip. I think he's watching YouTube again. I figure out what the hell's on my television. Alex Sarr is someone you should be trying to acquire while his value is artificially depressed by a bad field goal percent. And I know he's not going to shoot well this year, but 29% is unsustainably low. You figure that'll come up to 40 at least. And then you don't need anything else to change because he's at 2 blocks a game right now. And he's ranked just outside the top 100. See if you can go get Sarr for a flyer you pick that's maybe doing a little bit better. For a Jaden Ivey, frankly. For a Wendell Carter Jr., Aaron Gordon. I like PJ Washington, but I think I'd rather have Alex Sarr when you sort of stretch that out to the longer term. Julian Champagny, if somebody thinks that that's going to keep up when Devin Vassell comes back, who, by the way, had a quieter game yesterday anyway. I don't know if I'd go much higher than that. Jonas Valanciunas, before we move on from Washington, 7 points, 9 boards, 4 assists. I don't know that he's a must-roster guy. I think I said on the last one you give him another week, so we'll abide by that, but the dude abides. Oh no, Atlanta lost Vít Krejci in this game also, which is only a story because they were already down Bogdan Bogdanović and DeAndre Hunter. Otherwise, no one would care at all. And Onyeka Okongwu took this game off for injury management. So you figured surely Clint Capella would have an okay game with no Okongwu, and meh. He got outplayed by Larry Nance, who I love Larry Nance. He's like the nicest dude in the NBA. He and Andre Drummond can have a nice off. And also, I love Larry Nance's fantasy game, especially if he's going to play alongside Trae Young. But this is very much a one-time kind of deal. And the next time Okongwu sits, I don't think you can trust for sure that Nance is going to get 24 minutes. I mean, he might. But we can't guarantee it. It was just kind of fun to see. Anyway, Dyson Daniels looks outstanding. Trae Young cooled off. Jalen Johnson, he's up. He's awake. 29, 12, and 7 for Jalen Johnson. Percentages were back. A steal, a block, and a 3-ball. Now we're cooking with gas. Milwaukee off to a slow start this year, but you know who isn't? Damian Lillard or Brook Lopez. Both those guys off to big starts on the season. And probably sell highs for all of them. Dame is number 14. I mean, look, at some point, Chris Middleton's going to come back and Dame is going to do less, but he's shooting 47% instead of 42%. That's the biggest difference year over year, is that he hasn't been a mess on the field goal percent number. And this, to me, was always the reason to take Dame late in the second round, was because there was a certain amount of field goal percent mini upside with where he was being drafted. Still, it's probably a sell high, and it's certainly a sell high for Brook Lopez, who has been outstanding in the defensive departments. He's at 4.3 combined defensive stats so far, although the field goal percent is going to come up. So a wash? I don't know. Giannis, 2 for 6 free throws, 7 turnovers. Oof. What's Giannis ranked in 9-cat right now? It's not good. 166th. I mean, obviously, a lot of that is the free throw thing, but the other stuff hasn't been that great for him either. Points and rebounds have been very good, but come on, Giannis, get it together. That's why you don't draft him in Roto. You just don't. Drew Holiday woke up. That was good news. 21 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, 4 threes on good percentages. Al Horford did just another Al Horford line. Horford, by the way, is ranked number 70, even with that one ultra stinker mixed in there. I love me some Roto Al Horford. Peyton Pritchard, I don't want to spend too much time on him. He's been really hot after a slow first game. But again, because it's sort of like, will he catch fire or not kind of thing, you got to think head-to-head stream only on Pritchard. Denver, Christian Braun did it again. That's 3 in a row, 17, 4, and 2, a steal block and a 3-ball on great percentages. There's a lot to like with Christian Braun so far. He's number 37 in 9-cat, but you're not going to be able to sell high. Like, that's the thing. A guy that has this amount of name recognition, which is to say 0, you can't sell. You just have to ride it out. Just get what you can get. Hope that it continues long-term. If it doesn't, we figure out something at that point. For now, though, Christian Braun is your must-play guy in this mix. And certainly among the names that we've covered so far, if I'm going to scroll back up and do like a quick check, Coulibaly is maybe my favorite. I know and Brown's been ranked higher, but there's something magical about that. Coulibaly, Sarr are 2 of the kind of fun ones. Obviously Dyson Daniels, but he should have been picked up before the season started. He should have been drafted. And then Braun, and then on the other side in this ball game, Scotty Barnes left after getting popped in the eye, but it was very late in the ball game and it didn't impact the fantasy numbers much. RJ Barrett came back, scored 20 points on 21 shots, and that's kind of the fear with RJ, is that I don't think you're going to get much efficiency out of him. You know the free throw is going to be bad. The field goal looked better with Toronto, but I think opposing teams are going to get the scouting report, and if they're playing a decent opposing team, they're going to use it. And then Barrett's not much of a defensive stats guy either. So to me, more of a points league target on RJ Barrett. Oops, accidentally highlighted 2 names. Davion Mitchell filling in for Emmanuel Quickley. I still don't really want to deal with it. Grady Dick filling in when someone is out. He was decent in this one, but I don't trust him anymore with Barrett back. I think if Barnes plays and Barrett plays, then, and this game went to overtime too, by the way, so it's sort of worth noting that, like, and Scotty Barnes was out before that point, so a lot of guys got a little bit extra. He's a little bit extra. Jakob Poeltl, 16 and 19. That was fun. He's starting to show signs of waking up after a couple of slow ones to start the year. I have no issues. I have no fears at all with Jakob Poeltl. Small sample size, rank theater. Let's keep going. Cleveland, they're a predictable bunch. They've got 4 guys who post fantasy value every night, and then you've got a couple of dudes you might think about for head-to-head scheduling spots, but generally, nah. Mostly just nice to see Darius Garland get cooking yesterday. Rocketed himself up to number 38 on the year thanks to that nice field goal percent so far. Donovan Mitchell hasn't really had to do all that much. He's ranked 63rd. Lower. It'll be fine. I'm just yanking your chain. Mobley looks great. Allen looks great. Cavs are a wrecking machine so far. They look like a top 3 team in the NBA through the first week of the season. Cavs, Celtics look really good. Whatever. Josh Hart, to no one's surprise, ended up playing himself into an injury. He hurt his ankle in this one. Hopefully, he won't have to miss time because the Knicks just have nobody else they can play. which means Mikal Bridges, there's more than enough for him to do as bodies keep dropping on this team. Bridges played 40 minutes in yesterday's game, and he's up to number 79 now in 9-cat rankings, although he's shooting 60% from the field, so that probably doesn't stick. I still remain not super high on Bridges. I love Josh Hart this year, especially with as thin as the Knicks are. He's going to do a lot of the grinder stuff. 13 rebounds in this one before he went out. 3 steals, 2 3-balls. Love that stuff. Big Josh Hart fan, especially once Precious Achiuwa went down and they basically had no one they could bring off the bench. If Hart has to miss a ball game, you're probably playing Miles McBride because he'll slide in and start most likely at shooting guard. And then all these guys are going to have to play 36, 37 minutes because the bench is Cam Payne and Jericho Sims. And that's basically it. I don't even know who this other fella is. Ariel Hook-Porty? That's not right. Jalen Brunson. Someone was like, hey, should I buy low on Jalen Brunson? I was down on Jalen Brunson from day one. The reason he was a top 20 guy last year is because he had a stretch of about half a season where he was able to take 23 shots a game. There was just no way it was going to be that in this current iteration of the Knicks. Now, admittedly, because everybody's hurt, he got 24 shots yesterday, but the efficiency is going to suffer. His body just none of these guys can handle an entire season of what they had to do down the stretch last year. It's too much. Especially Cat. His body definitely can't handle it. He fouled out in 32 minutes of this one. Knicks, you're going to need to sign some people. Houston beat the Spurs 106-101. Jalen Green is a volume machine right now. 22 more shots for Jalen Green, who feels like a bit of a sell high. I don't know. I don't see him taking 22 shots a game all season, but I guess maybe it's possible. At the moment, his volume is so high that it doesn't matter that his field goal percent is a train wreck. But there's no way, right? So a bit of a sell high there. Freddie VanVleet, 11-9, 2 steals, 3 3-pointers. This is he's just going to quietly do this all season long, and no one's going to notice while he climbs from the 55 range up to the 20 range, because his field goal is going to go from 34 to 41, and his free throw is going to go from 75 to 80 something, and the assists are going to get up to 8 instead of 6.5. He's already at 2 steals. Şengün has slowed markedly after a quick start, although he got Wemby'd here, and that's happened 2 games in a row, so kind of a tough matchup for Alperen. Amen Thompson, 19 minutes again. That's unfortunately not enough. Try to hold if you can. Tari Eason got 22 minutes, and he can, and that's the story with both of those guys. Eason and Amen Thompson, those guys can put up fantasy value in low 20s of minutes. Eason, probably easier because he's a great rebounder and a big steals guy. Right at the moment, neither one of them is doing enough. And Şengün had 5 fouls in 26 minutes, so this is about as good as it's going to get for the bench. It's possible we might just need a starter to get hurt for Houston. Not that we want him to, but that's what it would take to bust Eason and Amen Thompson out. Man, it's tough. It's a hard hold right now on Thompson, and maybe you move on and you pick him back up when things turn right. Yikes. Wemby looked a little more like Wemby, 20 boards and 4 blocks. Jeremy Sohan, 22-9 with percentages that weren't bad, and he continues to be one of the most intriguing late guys in fantasy because you just don't really know exactly what kind of a line you're going to get. But with the scoring and the rebounding and the passing, and so far the field goal percent has been better, and maybe that's just the Spurs running better offense this year, he belongs on rosters, even if I am personally too afraid to start him in my Roto League because of the free throws and the turnovers and the chance that you get the bad field goal night and the lack of 3-pointers. Head-to-head, he belongs on rosters because you punt free throw and you're golden. You punt turnovers, you're basically golden. Chris Paul's assists were down, but he actually took a few shots yesterday. He's a hold for me on CP3. Julian Champagny, 5-5. 28 minutes is the number to look at there. He remains a soft hold. Spurs have a good schedule right now after a slow start to the year in schedule. So hold Champagnian head-to-head. Roto, you can probably find something better floating around out there. And that's the Spurs. Chicago, when they have big scoring games, you're going to get a lot of kind of fun stuff. Like, Zach LaVine had 30, Vooch had 22, Kobe White had 20, Giddey had 12, 13, and 8. Ayo Dosunmu had 10, 8, and 4. Oh, man, I'd love it if Dosunmu could find enough playing time, but not with this many guys out there. And then, not to be lost in the shuffle here, Lonzo Ball got up to 18 minutes in yesterday's ball game. It was 14, then it was 16, then it was 18. And here's the thing. They're not going to push him, but and I've said this before, and I don't know if the Bulls still feel this way, and I don't know what speed Lonzo is going to be able to get to at any point after all of these years off. Before Lonzo Ball missed the last quarter century with injuries, he was the most important player on that Bulls team. Remember, they went from a top 4 East team to barely squeaking into the play-in, and the difference was basically Lonzo Ball. And I know there's all this other stuff that goes on, but he was the guy that sort of cinched the whole thing together. With DeMar and with LaVine and with Vooch and whatever, they needed Lonzo. All that brings me to the point of, if he gets healthy enough to play 24 minutes, and he's anything like the old Lonzo, they'll play him those 24 minutes. He had the best plus-minus of anyone on the team last night. Plus 16 in his 18 minutes on the court. It is not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. He is that impactful as a point guard, a floor spacing, ball moving. And I get it. He's not LaMelo. He doesn't have that superstar level ability, but he has a similar thing that a lot of guys in the NBA don't, which is the ability to see things before they happen, to make those fastball passes. I don't know if he has the speed he had before. I don't know if the steals are going to be there the way they were before, and will there be any scoring of any kind? And so that's the stuff that you question in terms of upside. But, I get it. Head-to-head, you can't really do anything about it because he's going to sit back-to-backs, and it's going to be 18 minutes for we don't know how long before it gets to 19 or 20. Roto, I'm squatting on Lonzo Ball in a lot of places because if you get him to mid-20s in minutes, he's a solid value. You got to go way the hell back to remember when this was a legitimate thing. What was it, 2020? When was the last time Lonzo was a thing? Before that, 2019? Was it the COVID year? I honestly don't even remember the last time that Lonzo played a full season of basketball. I know he was in New Orleans that year. When did Lonzo end up in Chicago? My goodness. I gotta actually look this thing up. Lonzo Ball stats. No, it's 21-22. So Pelicans the year before that, 2021, 2022 was Lonzo's first year in Chicago. And that year he was number 27 in 9-cat. 13, 5, and 5 with almost 2 steals, a block, and 3 3-pointers. I don't think that's coming back, and he ain't playing 35 minutes. All that to give you an example of that's the stat set you're working with. 30-some-odd minutes got him into the early third round. We're not getting to there, but mid-20s in minutes puts him in value proposition. For Memphis, there was no Ja Morant in this game, so Scottie Pippen was a pretty easy call. He ended up with a double-double. Great. And he's been playing well anyway, but, 21 minutes became 31, and that's when you can definitely trust a guy. Santi Aldama's been off to a pretty ferocious start, too, as JJJ works himself back into full game minutes. One would assume, however, that as this team gets fully healthy and Jaren Jackson's playing 30-something minutes and Ja Morant is playing most basketball games, that there won't be much room for Pippen and Aldama because, look, these are just not guys that are going to be able to post value in 22 minutes long term. Pippen's the more translatable one because of assists and steals, and Aldama's percentages are historically kind of bad, but certainly from the head-to-head standpoint, those guys are playable. I know Jay Huff had another 10.2 block effort, but 18 minutes. That's a head-to-head stream also. And I'll tell you guys, I am worried about Marcus Smart. I am also worried about Zach Edey. I'm a little surprised that you only got 13 minutes out of Edey in this ball game. But, big dude, big NBA learning curve. He's probably someone you hold. I don't have him anywhere. I don't have a single Zach Edey, so it's hard for me to put myself in your shoes on that one. But I think I would hold. With Marcus Smart, I mean, he shot 0 for 11, so that's pretty much as bad as that one's going to get. I think you're holding Smart for the assists and the steals, and then you hope that anything else is also happening there. Unfortunately, the news of the night, Taylor Hendricks, broken leg, like badly, gnarly broken leg. I don't know if he's playing the rest of this year. But we didn't get an obvious answer to who picked up the minutes. I think you got more Colin Sexton, interestingly. He and Jordan Clarkson, who were kind of splitting shooting guard job, they each got an extra 3 or 4 minutes apiece. Walker Kessler got 30, and John Collins only got 19. So kind of a weird first half. It was only like a quarter and some odd without Taylor Hendricks. But Utah plays again tonight, and that's on the list of things to watch for. Did Hendricks going down, does that sort of secure the Colin Sexton job? Does John Collins get to do more now? Is it opponent dependent? I don't know that there's a whole lot we're going to be able to do at the waiver wire because Sexton, Collins, Kessler, Markkanen, Keontae George, these guys are all rostered, and I don't really want Jordan Clarkson on my 9-cat team. So I guess we'll see, but odds are, regardless of what happens, I don't know that there's going to be anything that most 12-team managers can do about it. Dallas won this game despite Luka posting what might end up being his worst game of the year. Oof, he was bad. 15, 9, and 8, but it took him 22 shots to get there. Luckily, Kyrie Irving just sort of quietly punching along with a super efficient ball game. That's what he does. PJ Washington, 12 and 11, 4 steals, 2 blocks. Nice to see him bust out. I remain weirdly pro PJ. I made a stink about him before the season started, and then I kind of softened my stance a tad. But, all he has to do is shoot about 44% from the field, and he's an easy top 100 kind of guy. Because there's going to be enough boards and steals and blocks, and he'll get a few three-pointers that you can just sort of pile up fantasy stats, and your only job is to not be horrible at the percentages. And he's not good. He's not good at them, but just don't be horrible. This, by the way, was the center breakdown that I was kind of hoping for. It was like 26 for Lively, 20-21 for Gafford. That puts them both in must-own territory. And for Gafford, 9 and 7 with 3 blocks in 20 minutes, that'll get it done. He's shooting only 48% from the field right now. That's why his numbers are artificially low. But if that comes up to 60 like you're expecting, then he pushes back inside the top 100. Where Lively is, because he's shooting 75% from the field. Gracious me. Klay Thompson at 4 more three-pointers. I think he's going to slowly taper off after that big start to the year. So, if you need three-pointers, hang on. If you don't, I don't know what you get for him. Top 75. Could you get that right now after the big start? I do not know. Portland lost at Sacramento, excuse me. Jeremy Grant slowed down to no one's surprise. DeAndre Ayton had a good game. Scoot Henderson was pretty good. But you're going to get ones like this from Portland because they're not a particularly good basketball team. Bah. I was wondering if any guys could step up and be more than a schedule play. I think the answer is no. I'm still... Oh, man, the Denny Avdia thing. I'm not sure that Avdia is going to have value after Shaedon Sharpe comes back. And he's only shooting 29% right now. So there's sort of a little bit of that, if he was shooting 47 or whatever we're expecting, then he's inside the top 100 at this point. So you're likely holding Avdia for now, but I don't have super high hopes on what happens if this team ever gets actually healthy. Kings are a pretty easy team to handicap. The only question mark in this exact moment is, are we in one of those Kevin Huerter hot stretches? Because every once in a while he'll have 2 weeks where he shoots the frickin' lights out. And in those weeks, he gets bonus playing time and he rolls top 60. Again, we're talking about a 10 to 15 day stretch. And then he cools off. He loses 15 minutes of playing time to Keon Ellis. and then he's not even remotely close to fantasy value. So there is a certain advantage to playing the hot hand, and maybe that's hurt her right now. But don't expect it to last forever, because we've seen this act 1,000 times. Okay, maybe more like 10, but enough times to know what's coming. Lakers, big LeBron off night. If LeBron has a half decent ball game, Lakers are 4-0, but LeBron did not, which I guess he was due after that mega game the previous night out. He'll be fine. He's LeBron. D'Lo 14-8. He'll be fine. Rui 20-10. Outstanding stream. How good will Rui be when Jared Vanderbilt comes back is, again, the only question, but you're not doing anything with him until then. Austin Reaves really looks like he's taken another leap, and they just put the ball in his hands late in this game because LeBron didn't have it. They were like, Austin, you run it. He's a second rounder so far this year. And yeah, some of that stuff is going to come down, but I think there's a little bit of a Reaves breakout happening. And then Anthony Davis has been transcendent through 4 ball games. He's the number 3 player in fantasy behind Shea, who is averaging 5.3 defensive stats. So that ain't going to stick. And then Jokic, who is the one name right up there where you're like, okay, yeah, that's not that out of the ordinary. AD, man, holy crap, has he been good. And for Phoenix, it's nice to see Kevin Durant seems to still be pretty good. He's number 13 in 9-cat, and I don't even really know why, because his numbers are huge. It's just everybody else is putting up pinball numbers, and when like Larry Nance is in the first round after 1 game. So KD is effectively a first rounder right now. And, when CJ McCollum isn't averaging 3 steals, he'll fall out of the way. When Jordan Poole isn't averaging 3 steals and 51% shooting, he will fall out of the way. If Kevin Durant keeps up anything close to this pace, that kind of puts him as like the number 10 guy in fantasy, but other dudes are going to move. Like Wemby's going to come up the board and blah, blah, blah. But KD looked great so far. And this is why he was the easiest second-round pick in the history of fantasy basketball, because he's just good at everything. It was nice to see Booker get going offensively, but those assists are still not there. And so Devin is number 44 in 9-cat right now. I think as the field goal percent equilibrates, he'll probably move up into that like mid-third, which is frankly fine. That's probably where he ends up, and that's okay. Tyus Jones, 7-6-5 with 3 steals. He's locked in, and the fade Jusuf Nurkic bandwagon has officially left the building. If you haven't joined me by now, it's too late. You can't join me anymore. Nurk is not that great of a basketball player anymore, and they didn't have any other choices last year, but they do now. Mason Plumlee's a choice. Royce O'Neal, small ball center, is a choice, and so Nurk got 15 minutes, and I personally don't think he needs to be rostered. I drafted him nowhere. And much like Jonas Valanciunas, if you want to hang on a little bit more, that's fine. But it does kind of feel like we're at the end of the road. At the end of... And now, 38 minutes deep, it's time to pivot on over and take a look at what's coming up tonight, which luckily is a relatively small card. So my voice won't completely crap out on me. There you go. Must watch Tuesday. What do we got? Nice light card. A 4-gamer off of Monday's big one. We've got 4 games, but 2 teams are playing their first game without a key rotation piece tonight. And a mid-show reminder once again to follow me on Twitter at Dan Bespers. Everything we do on the pod dovetails into the Twitter side, and that bounces back into the pod side and back and forth and back and forth. And so that is why you got to be a part of both of these things. Old Man Squad, by the way, is the network feed over on Twitter. Old Man Squad Fantasy over on Instagram. That's where all of our shorts get posted. So that's kind of fun. Again, the ratings are big. The subscriptions are big. Keep hitting those buttons. Let's keep growing this weird little wagon we've got going. Team by team tonight. Christian Braun, can he do it a 4th time? And who was it? Someone on Twitter. I got to go back and get his name so that he gets credit for it. Andre Crouch on Twitter was like, are you going to do this all 82 times? Now I am. Yeah. I mean, obviously Brown is, Christian Braun is a must roster guy regardless. I think we need to keep one eye on him. I think Ben Simmons is out tonight. But we are going to watch list him at this point. He's been downgraded from rosterable to watch list because if his minutes ever trend up from 24, then you'd have to think about it. But 24 ain't enough. That's on the Nets side. For the Mavericks, see if you can get PJ Washington. After last night, it might be harder. But I think he profiles as like an 8th round type this year. And he was going much later than that. And that's a little win. We'll keep an eye on Clay as well. What the hell is Clay ranked right now? Look it up while we're talking. It's something really high. He's number 26 because he's hitting 5 3-pointers a game. That's not going to stick. And the shots are starting to come down a little bit. And he's at 48% from the field. And he made his, 2 free throws so far. Rebounds are probably going to come down as well. This is very much a sell high for Klay Thompson. I think if you can get a top 75 guy, you probably do it. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Timberwolves, let's keep an eye on the minutes per game for Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, and Mike Conley. I am the most concerned about DiVincenzo in that group because Conley looks more like himself after a very bad first game and a kind of bad second game. Naz Reid, his numbers are going to bounce around a bit because there will be days where they need Gobert more and Naz will play less, and then there will be games where they need the floor spacing offensive production. And so it's one of those things where you can't really watch Naz every single game because you'll be like, yay, aw, yay, aw. And it's too much. The heart doesn't need it. Sacramento Kings, nothing. There's nothing to watch there. We already talked about are we in a heater? The Jazz are one of those teams I think we should pay attention to tonight. Although, again, I don't know that there's a whole lot to do with the information we get out of the game. Like, what if John Collins gets more playing time? Terrific. He got drafted. Someone drafted him. It was dumb at the time, but now the power forward just got hurt. So someone's going to stumble, I believe the expression is trip over their Johnson. Someone is going to trip over their shoelaces into a John Collins win with this Hendricks injury, possibly. Or does it mean just Colin Sexton now becomes super safe when it was a little bit nervous time a couple games in there? We know enough about Jordan Clarkson to know that he is not someone you roster outside of a punt field goal, punt turnover, like punt defensive stats kind of team. But, if you're punting some of those things, have at it. The Pelicans, can Yves Missi be more than just a schedule play? Probably not. And can we get Herb Jones going? He was a little better in their last ball game, but it's time, Herb. Get yourself involved. Also, CJ McCollum is a very clear sell high. And the Golden State Warriors, who will pick up the slack with Steph Curry out. He's going to be reevaluated at the end of this week. And my guess is that he misses a couple more games after that point. They're not going to race him back in. It's way early in the year for that. Is it going to be Buddy Hield? That's my best guess. Will we get enough Podziemski to finally get him on the radar? He was someone I faded. You remember. I was down on pods throughout the preseason. And I think Melton's out. He would have been the other one to look at, but I'm pretty sure he's hurt. And then is Draymond Green cooked? Like, did we witness the end of the Draymond slot machine, the 7-7-7? I cannot imagine he's going to be this bad all season long. So hold on, Draymond. And of all the centers that we talked about that were drafted somewhat semi-late that have been bad so far, like Draymond, Nurk, Jonas Valanciunas, I have the most faith in Draymond because the Warriors run a lot of their stuff around his sort of short role. And then I think Trace Jackson Davis, he's not on my list here, but keep an eye on him. I'm pretty sure he's someone we're going to want to roster, but again, you sort of never know. Injury replacement names. We actually don't really have them. You got Jordan Hawkins for the Pelicans with Trey Murphy and DeJounte Murray out. That's the only one I think that's really locked in on today's board. But let's see. Does anyone fill in for Hendricks? Does anyone fill in for Steph Curry? Those are the two big question marks. And it's bad news, good news. Bad news is those guys are out. Hendricks for a long time, Steph for not that long. The good news is you can watch one game and see who steps up and then do something about it after. You don't have to try to jump in front of it today because you'll have multiple either a small number of multiples or a very large number of them to use that information on each of these ball clubs. Thanks for watching, everybody. That's our Monday Recap Tuesday Look Ahead show. I am hoping that if I can get this work done quick enough, we can get you a little sell high program on today's show, because a bunch of the buy lows got obliterated yesterday. Jalen Johnson had a big ball game. Halliburton was better. I was going to do a buy low on those two guys, and I thought we had a nice solid 20 minutes of content, and now... So we'll talk about the dudes getting off to unsustainably good starts and who you might be able to pick up for those dudes. I'll see you guys on Twitter in the meantime. Check back for that Sell High show. Subscribe. That would be the way to get it. And I'll see you at Dan Besbris over on socials. Talk to you guys in an hour or two.